All right, so I'm Montel from Triple M Enterprise. Delighted to be joined by Mr. Goldstar himself,
Nice
Spencer
to
Brown.
see you, mate. I've been promising this interview for ages. We're finally here, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, 100%. And what I want to talk about is all to do with Spencer Brown. I want to know about the upbringing, how you started, how you got into the game of boxing. Like, tell me about everything, basically.
Oh, I was born in Tottenham. We moved out to a little place in Hertfordshire called Letchworth Garden City when I was a little baby boy, and it's a very posh town now. But at the time, my mother died when I was very, very young, and sort of we had to grow up. We have three sisters, so four of us had to grow up. We had a bit of a tough old upbringing, and we were basically on a council estate. So we were on a single parents council estate. So all my mates had either a mum or a dad, and it was fantastic. Well, I had a great upbringing, and I go back to there, all the time to see my friends. I've still got friends from when I was a baby, and the boxing all started at a place called Hitchin Boxing Club. I only went down a few times, and I wasn't no good at it. I was just no good, and thought I'd try it. And I done a bit of sparring, not in the club. A guy called Mark Freeman, he used to have his own gym, so we used to spar down there and do a bit of boxing. And the best boxer around was a kid called Monty Wright, who fought for the British title. He's a good friend of mine, Monty, and he's a great fighter. He used to knock 10 tons of shit out of all of us, and I could really have a good fight on the street. I was a decent street fighter. School I could fight, got me iodines from older kids, but in the end I'd done all right, and thought myself as a tough guy until it come on top for me a couple of times. And I had a really good friend of mine. He was a lot older than me. His name was Peter Craggs. He was a boxer. We'd done a bit of sparring together as well, and he said, "You want to do a bit of unlicensed fighting? You're all right. You're not bad." And at the time I was playing rugby, so I played rugby for Letchworth Garden City, who now I actually sponsor the whole club. So they're a big part of my life now, and the chairman's a very good friend. I grew up with the chairman, and they're a very high rising boxing team. London won, and I've done loads of boxing with him and used to spar all the time, and then I'd done a couple of unlicensed fights and got involved in the unlicensed boxing scene with a guy called Alan Mortlock, and I used to bring in fighters down and such and so forth, and I used to just have unlicensed boxing fights myself. What I'd do is I might be emceeing one night, I'd take me gum shield and have a fight the next. I've actually in one night boxed a guy, done the charity auction, and done all the emceeing.
What was that like?
It was weird, very weird, but I think it's still on YouTube now. I think you can see it on YouTube now. Spencer Brown boxing or something, and that was in Newcastle. So we used to go all over the country, and I made a federation up. A friend of mine, a guy called Wayne Barker, who was a real tough guy in Manchester, and he was doing the unlicensed circuit. He said, "I'm getting out of it." He said, I've had enough. He said, "I'm going in the pro game, strictly pro." He said, "Do you want to take over the unlicensed?" I said, "Yeah, lovely. I wouldn't mind." Done my first show, come completely unstuck. Lost a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but what I did have, I lost it. And so I thought I'd give it one more go. And I got involved with a local kid in Blackpool, a cage fighter called Carl Everington. He started working with me. And we had like 1,500 people turn up, and it was a huge success. And then from there, I ended up with about 2,000 unlicensed fighters over the years. I was doing it for 20 years, and after about 8 or 9 years, we ended up with a lot of fighters, and our champion was a guy called Chris Bacon. We used to call him Crispy Bacon. He was a pro. He was the toughest guy I've ever seen in my life. And he fought, we had Mark Potter fighting Butterbean. We'd have all these strange, Butterbean came over and fought Mark Potter walloped him. God bless his soul, Mark. And then And then we started getting ex-pros coming to fight for us, and we started getting a bit of a threat to the British Board of Boxing Control, because Alan Mortlock would run it in London, I would run it in the north. And we went as far as Scotland. We had shows in Ireland, we had shows everywhere, in Wales, you name it, we had shows. We were doing 4 or 5 shows every week. So I heavily got involved in it then, and it was like a full-time job. And from there, it went on for years and years. And, we had all the big stars. Ricky Hatton used to come to our shows all the time. I ended up working with Ricky Hatton's brother and a guy called Danny Hornsby from KO Promotions. So they ended up working with us. So we had a massive network of promoters all around the country. And there'd be a lot of diamonds from the rough that come out. We went right down to Bristol and places like that. We've had a couple of British champions who boxed for us. It just goes to show you testament to Fabio Wardley, because that's where he come from. And then what happened? I thought from there I got quite a bit of money together, and I thought, next move, let's start doing the big dinner shows with my idols. So Ernie Shavers was a good friend of mine who lived in Liverpool at the time, believe it or not. One of the hardest hitting punches ever, lived in Liverpool, worked on the door there. And his big friend, Alan Levine, another guy called Kenny Rainford, who was also a boxer, who also still to this day referees for us. I don't get involved anymore, but James Ward runs it all, who works with Goldstar. So
quickly, just before we move on, what was it like, obviously, in the unlicensed scene? Like, what advice did you have to take on board, or what did you learn from that?
No, I think it's a great grounding. It's the best grounding to be a pro promoter ever. Ask Frank Warren. You get to meet some real characters. You get to understand how to put a show on. It's a lot more stricter now than it used to be. We used to have 1 ambulance, now it's 2 ambulances. And you get to know the ins and outs of boxing, albeit at a lower level. But we've all seen the Rocky film when he used to box like that, and that's where he came from. And the unlicensed white collar boxing was born out of unlicensed boxing. In fact, one of the main guys, Alan, had a gym just down the road from here. He was one of the first people to put white collar boxing on. It originated in America for all the Wall Street traders, and it came over here. And in the end, really, unlicensed boxing took a step back, and the white collar scene came into fruition. Came in big with ultra white collar boxing, which I think was great, but it was very dangerous. It was, it wasn't. Our fighters were either ex-pros, they were trained fighters, they were fighters who wanted to get on the ladder, they were fighters who wanted to turn pro, or simply they wanted to part-time box. So it was really a semi-professional job, really. A lot of them. We had so many ex-pros fight because they couldn't get the money they wanted. They still wanted to box, but instead of, they could be a carpenter and then fight at the weekends. So, for fun, really. And they could win titles. We had a title system. We had weight systems. We were very stringent on weight and titles and things like that. And it became, we became a bit of a danger to the British Board of Boxing Control. They sent letters around in the end saying, if you work with these people, we will not work with you anymore. And what people realise now is that the British Board of Boxing Control is a limited company, albeit probably one of the best organisations I've seen. It's very strict, very stringent. We're very lucky to have the British Board of Boxing Control, very lucky. And from there, I'd done the dinner shows with all the famous people. I ended up best friends with Mike Tyson and Larry Holmes and Sugar Ray Leonard and Roberto Duran, who I still see all the time now. Marco Antonio Barrera is a very close friend of mine. I've got many close friends in the boxing world. There's not many people I don't know, and I've got their number. So, I don't know if you ever saw, but when we first opened up at Riyadh season, we'd done a World Champions dinner, and I put that on for Turki Al Sheikh, and anybody was there. and from there, I started up a memorabilia business, and that's now one of the biggest memorabilia businesses in the world, Goldstar Memorabilia. And we have shops now all over the place. I don't run them, but I started them off, and it's run by people who work for me. And then, just a chance meeting, Tyson Fury was one of our dinner show guests, and he came and done it. He loved it, and I said to him, "You're like a natural up there. You were brilliant. What a personality you've got." He had another guy working for him at the time, and he said, "I'm thinking about moving on from this other guy, and would you have any more shows for me?" I said, "Most definitely." Anyways, other things happened. He ballooned up to about 27 stone. I mean, he was unrecognisable to what he is today. He was just still a character, and I really got on well with him. And his dad. And I said to him once, "Look, do you want to come and work with me? I'll get you all the dinner shows. I'll be your commercial manager. I'm telling you, I'll do a good job for you. I'll make you a lot of money." And beforehand, I'd worked with Anthony Joshua for a couple of years doing the dinner shows and the dinner circuit. He'll tell you, Anthony. And we were his people he came to when he wanted to do dinner shows. And how we built people up was we used to go around the country, and there weren't a lot of social media then. It was very, very in his infancy. So we'd go around the country, you'd have a meet and greet with Anthony, you'd shake his hand, and you get to know him very quickly. You get to know him for a minute, but you get to judge a man in a minute. You can judge a man in a minute, and people would A, tell their friends what a nice guy he was. B, the friends would like to meet him themselves. And C, they'd have a picture on the mantelpiece they'd never forget. So every time we fought, they would buy a ticket for his fight. So that's how we built him. And Ricky Hatton was just the same. There was no social media then. They had to book him for going around working men's clubs, meeting people, and being a people's champion. And there was no more natural at that than Tyson Fury. He was the archetypal, same as Ricky Hatton, people's champion. They loved him. And he would, if you wanted a glove sign, he would sign it. If you wanted a picture, or you wanted your little boy to come in, he'd have people with mental illnesses coming in, and he'd stay, or he'd turn up an hour early and speak to these people and try and talk them round. I've seen him save people's lives. I've seen him save people's lives. Come back 6 months later and said, "You saved my life. That night you saved my life." And they'd be a lot better, and they'd be, they could have women trouble or financial trouble, or just generally depressed and didn't want to continue with life. And then from there, I carried on with Tyson and done his stuff, and we formed a great relationship. And I just very straight with him, honest with him, and that's how it developed. And he said one day, "I want you to be the manager." And I said, "Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know. I've got it in me. I know the game inside out, but not the managerial stuff and what you have to do." And he said, "It's easy. You'll pick it up like egg in a cake." He said, "It'll be that easy for you. Can I have a think about it?" He said, "Yeah, don't think too long. I'll get somebody else." So I said, "I'll tell you what, then I'll take the job." So I took the job, and fair play to him. He put me into everybody. He said, "You're going to be quite famous now. I'm going to make you quite famous, so be prepared." And I sort of laughed and thought, "Shut up, what are you talking about?" And from there, I met Joe Parker, and he said to Joe Parker, "Spence, do me a favour, find Joe Parker some work, look after him, make sure he's all right, and see what you can do for him." So I spoke to Joe, and Joe said, "Look, I've got a manager, Spence. His name's David Higgins, and he's a great guy." He said, "But I can see something here that you could work with David, and you could be on this side of the pond for me and do business for us here, as long as you and David keep in communication." I spoke with David. He was very happy with it, and we started from there. And then one day, two guys turned up at my house from Saudi Arabia, and that's where it all started, really. That was the beginning of it. And I'd done two of the biggest boxing deals in the world. I'd only been a manager for a month, and then I went on to do three of the biggest deals for Joe Parker he's ever done, and I've done a lot of deals for a lot of other fighters since. So I've not always got it right. I've got it wrong a few times, and nobody can get it. There's always a flaw in the ointment, and nobody can get it right all the time. But I try my hardest. I try to be genuine. I love the British boxing fans. I love being around them, and I like all types of life and all walks of life, and I love being around people. And I feel that maybe boxing was my destiny. Maybe.
So what were some of the challenges that you faced when you was starting off with Goldstar? Because I imagine it must have been a few challenges along the way.
I was very lucky because I was quite a good businessman and entrepreneur. So, I mean, I come from down the road here in Petticoat Lane. That's where I started my career, working as a barrow boy. I was a barrow boy. And I worked auctions, and I went to South Africa and done exactly the same thing. And I went to Australia and done the same thing. Went to New Zealand. I played rugby in all them places because that's how you got in there. You went to a rugby club and they got you a job. And that's what I did. I bummed around for a while. Then I ended up in South Africa for a long time. I made a lot of money there and came back to England. Bought some property. Got myself established. Bought a bit more property and a bit more property. Done a few silly things and went down again. Went back up again. Ended up in Blackpool. And it was very funny because they call it the Golden Mile there, and it's a stretch you can't buy a shop, you can't get a pitch. If you do, it's astronomical money. It's one of them things that it gets passed down from generation to generation, or big corporations own it. So I was very lucky. The one spot that wasn't owned by that was owned by a guy in Luton, believe it or not. And McDonald's was there for years. I went in there, I said, can you give me the shop? You know, I'll pay it anyway. He let me have it. And in the end, 10 years later, I ended up buying the whole block. So I worked that hard and killed myself. I ended up buying the whole block. And since then, I've sort of buying all sorts of real estate all over Blackpool and Lytham St Anne's and all these different places. And what really done it for me, I think, was Tyson having his trust in me as a manager, as a friend, and Turkey Al Sheikh. You know, he made Goldstar what it was today. Everybody knew Goldstar in that section, in the dinner circuit, and in the unlicensed boxing scene. And he sort of pushed me from here 0 to 99. You know, he I've done that deal. He had great faith in me. He treated me like a gent. He anything he asked for, he let me do it. And I brought Frank in, Saudi Arabia. I brought Eddie in, whatever they say that. You know, I rung Frank and said, I've got something here. I want you to come over and Eddie as well. Eddie had texted Turkey, and I don't know if Turkey was that set on Eddie at the beginning, but I remember him sitting down at the hotel. I said, we've got to bring this man up here and you've got to speak to him. It's imperative. And that's what happened, and I got on really well with Eddie. He's all right. He's a nice geezer. He's very clever. One of the best, for me, one of the best in boxing. You can say what you like and hear what you like, and people say this, that and the other, but Frank and him are very two astute boxing brains. You've got to be cunning as a fox, sharp as a razor, and you've got to be Eddie says it all the time, you've got to be, I don't know how to say this really without it sounding really bad, but you've got to be a bit slippery. And he says that, he said, I'm slippery, you're slippery, well, we've got to be slippery with each other because everybody's slippery. And boxing is a slippery game. And you can, if you ain't got the mind and the intelligence and the bottle in this game, you go nowhere.
So if someone wanted to get into your position, what advice would you recommend them to try?
Well, I think that if I would now again, I would start doing my own shows. I would make grounds into. I'd might try and make friends with as many people in the boxing game as I could, which is not easy because it's a closed shop for a lot of people. I think I'd I think I'd try and find a local fighter to manage that was good, and maybe work my way up that way. And like Sam Jones, that's what he's done. He's found lesser fighters and turned them into bigger fighters. He's a clever kid. He's a likeable kid, and he's quite clever, and that's the way he's done it. Get him with a big promoter, like Eddie Hearn and like Frank, and just put yourself out there. Go the extra mile. All of a sudden, you'll get noticed. Something will happen. You'll get noticed, and then from there, it's really charisma, and being a nice person, and or being an horrible person with a character. Can't be nice all the time. You got, you're not in this game, because you'll get let down, you'll get trod on, you'll get shit on. But if you can resist that, get over that, then you've got a chance in this game.
Yeah, no, perfect advice. And talk to me about Boxfest as well, because that's something that you've started. I love Boxfest, the last one I went to.
Yeah, look, we do all these little innovations. We try and think of new things to do, because, if you've never been to boxing before, you go to the boxing, you watch the fight, you get in a crowd, and it can take you hours to get back home, or a train or whatever. So we try to make it. What can we do to make this a little bit of an event, an attraction? Something for people to do, something where they can meet stars, where they can turn up and get a signature off whoever it is, or shake hands and we'll have a picture. So we done a Tyson Fest first of all, and there must have been 2,500 people, and I don't know if you went to that. It was absolutely mental. We couldn't believe it. We're like, well, this has gone well. And I can't remember who we had, but we had some big stars. Everybody was sort of coming. A lot of people didn't get it, and we really didn't get it ourselves because we were a bit naive to it. We tried to use the dinner situation and put it into that sphere, but it didn't really work because there was so many people's chaos in there. So we've got a formula. We stick to the formula. It seems to work. Everybody has a great time. Make everybody laugh. I let them have a drink. You can eat. You've got restaurants there. You can eat what you want. You can do what you want. You can meet all the stars. We have certain times of the day where you can go and meet all the stars, have pictures. We try and keep it as cheap as possible. It's not easy. We have to pay a fortune out for these stars to be there, and it just seems to work, and everybody has a great time, don't they? I
honestly loved it. But talk to you about how important James Ward is. I know he hates being on camera, but Wardy, how important he is.
Yeah, Ward is, unbelievably important to me. He makes with all the businesses and everything. I can't physically and mentally do everything. So I've stepped a little bit back and let Wardy. He's unbelievable. He does an unbelievable. You've seen the other way moves. We're going to bring somebody else in now to learn off Wardy. So Wardy, believe it or not, how Wardy came to me was he asked me for a job in the unlicensed, and at the time we were doing 5 shows a weekend. So I said, I think I could put you in charge of a show. Yeah, so he was our bellboy. He was our bell ring at the start with. That's how he started. Then he became a whip. Then after that, he started running his own shows very quickly, and he's very competent. And now I just leave him to it. I don't even have to ask. We speak to each other 3 or 4 times a day. He's very hands-on. I'm like his son's uncle, and we're very, very, very close. We do have our rows every now and then. That's probably more me than him because I'm quite hot-headed and a lunatic. But he's not. He's very good with people, Wardy, and everybody says to me that he's a nice fella and they like working with him. He's very easy to work with, and he does really well in this game, and like he should do. I should probably give him a bit more adoration than what he gets, but he can't be too soft on him, can you?
No, honestly, such a nice guy. But lastly, just talk to me about some of the plans for Goldstar in the future. Like, what are some of the future plans you've got?
Well, we're looking at now. We had a big meeting with Tyson the other day. I think he would. Tyson is Goldstar. That's who Tyson is. He is Goldstar. So I think Tyson would would like to jump on board, become a promoter. I mean, what a dream to have him as a promoter. So we're looking at getting in the promoting in a big way. You know, alongside, we don't want to ruffle any feathers. We'd like to work alongside Frank Warren. We'd like to work alongside Eddie Earn like we have been doing. I've got fighters with Eddie Earn, I've got fighters with Frank Warren. And, you know, we would like to work with these people. We would like to work with Turki Al Sheikh. We would like, I mean, we're in many different countries at the moment. We're in Denmark, we're in Australia. We're soon to be in Germany. So we want to spread boxing everywhere.
That sounds amazing. But what I want to say is, honestly, you've helped me out so much as well. Like, I always have to give plaudits as well. Like, obviously, this event for Parker Wardley, sort of helping with the accreditation, I really appreciate that stuff as well. And I think one thing I've definitely noticed is that you will help anyone. There's not a guy who wants to get
trouble. That's my problem probably in life. I want to help everybody, but obviously you can't help everybody because you'll never have the time. If I can try and do something, I will. Probably that's my downfall. And Tyson always says to me, "You're too nice. You know, you can't keep doing that because you'll have no time for yourself or your family or your girlfriend or your wife or whatever. You must dig out the diamonds and then back the diamonds." I'm not saying that in a nasty way because I want to help everybody. I just can't help everybody, but I will try. And you know, I mean, I remember, you know, Shauna Brown, the woman fighter I've got. Shauna drove me mad. And I said to her, "I don't think I've got time. I can't do this. I haven't got time." Anyway, she talked me into it. And in the end, I've done it. And, you know, I've helped her as much as I can. And she's regularly fighting. And she'll probably get a world title shot at some stage. So, you know, we've got a lot of success stories. And I hope we get a lot more. You know, I hope we got I see fighters walk into situations that really upsets me. And I can see they're doing wrong. And I can see they're having wrong done by them. And I might go over and tell them. Or I might drop a hint. Or I might whatever. And most of the time nobody listens. So really you've just got to let people do what they do. If they do need you and you can make an informed decision to help them from now on, I can. If I can't, I have to let it go. And if I can do that, you know, what do you have? You have yourself spread out everywhere where you can't give a minute to anybody, or do you close it all in so you can give everybody half an hour or an hour? Because I work from 3:30 in the morning, so I'm working at 3:30 in the morning with the Saudis, with the Americans, with, you know, different people all over the world, Australia, and it's very hard, and you get up grumpy and you, what am I doing all this for? And you're doing it because it's boxing's a drug, and you can't stop yourself and you can't help yourself. And they'll all tell you that. All boxing people tell you that because it's a small world, the boxing world. Everybody knows each other. Everybody tries to work with each other. People have got different opinions on people, and you know, it's a microcosm of life. It's the same. Your next door neighbours don't get on. Some of your family don't get on with each other. It is a microcosm of life. It really is, boxing. It's very strange. And it's, like I say, it's a very, very small world.
Definitely, and I really appreciate your time. I'm going to let you get back to it because you've had a long day.
Mate.
But thank you so much.
No problem, mate.
Thank you.
That was good.
Yeah.